Today is day 8 of my 30-day challenge to rebuild my brand completely in public, and we're done with the first week. The first week is in the books. We did a lot of amazing work, and I'm honestly very happy and very proud of all of the stuff that I was able to accomplish. There was so much that I created, so much exploration, sketches, ideas, and what I created in that first week is going to help tremendously in the days, in the weeks to come with this challenge. Now, was I able to finish everything I needed to do for our logo system? Yes and no. Right now, what we have could easily be used for the whole brand. However, there are some things that I want to expand upon, more things I want to try out, more things I want to explore with the brand. And I'm sure that over the next few weeks, I'm probably going to be sharing more stuff with you, and you'll be like, wait a minute, didn't you say that you were done or almost done with this? Yes, that's what happens. When you're a creative professional, when you are building your own brand, you constantly go back and change things and tweak things. Now, not something you should always be doing with a client's brand or as a founder, but as a designer, there's always going to be tweaks. There's always going to be evolutions with this. Now, in the past week, I was able to create a momentous amount of exploration for the Blue Cyclops brand. And honestly, I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of everything that I created. And there weren't too many bad ideas. There was a lot of good ideas spread throughout the entire exploration. And honestly, I am thrilled. This is the most amount of work I've been able to do on the Blue Cyclops brand in a long time outside of the website. And the amount of it, the breadth of it, is just spectacular. I'm really excited to share with all of you what I created during this entire week and kind of show you where we are going to be taking it over the next couple of weeks throughout the rest of this 30-day challenge. So without further ado, kind of let's jump in and check it out. All right, so let's first start with the sketches. Here's a bunch of spreads from my sketchbook, kind of like going through the emotions with just like coming up with as many ideas as I possibly could. This was over the course of about 2 or 3 days where I just kept sketching out as much as I could, and then I would take those sketches and then start playing around with them in Adobe Illustrator. But let's actually jump to and just like showcase a few of the ideas that like stuck out at the very beginning of these sketches. So for instance, right here where we have Bob the Blue Cyclops embedded within an actual bee. That was something that really came to me very quickly on in the process, and something I really started gravitating a lot towards. You can see it throughout a lot of the exploration, but also having, using the actual C in BC to act as the shape, the container for Bob himself, and instead having just like the pupil and a smiley face in there. Then exploring things like actually trying including both the C and Bob itself inside of the bee, trying to see if that would work, trying to see like how we could play with the idea of Cyclops, utilizing a bunch of different C shapes. You can see here I was practicing a bunch of different C's for potential word marks and lettering exploration there. Here though is where it got kind of interesting, where I started playing around with Bob in terms of his shape. For pretty much the last, I don't know, almost 10 years, Bob has been in a circle. He's had a body and that's about it. He hasn't been in any other really shapes that I can remember. And so by instead breaking him out of that and giving him more of an open shape, I think that's something that was really gravitating towards me. It's something I kept coming back to again and again. And as I brought it into Illustrator, I saw some real potential with it, especially when it comes to badges, when it comes to specific story points and things like that, as well as just seeing like what we could do. You can see here where we have a bee where it's the Cyclops eye and the mouth, and we actually had an eyebrow in some of the bits of exploration. It wasn't something I stuck with, but it might be something we might revisit later. And then the last little bits here, you can see here the silhouette of Bob, and then having like BC or Blue Cyclops abbreviated, maybe giving him more of a body, and just like giving him arms and everything. Lots of great exploration here, and I still want to do exploration around a Cyclops skull. Really goes back to my roots as a kid, listening to a lot of rock and metal and everything. So I kind of want to do a Cyclops skull. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if that's something that we can explore in the future. But there was just a lot of great pieces here, a lot of great explorations overall. Trying out some different bits of like hand lettering, which I did some. It didn't really turn out that great. I did use some typefaces and manipulate them a bit, and was able to create some pretty cool word marks and lettering. But hand lettering is still something that I'm pretty early on, and in order for me to get it quite right, I have to spend a good amount of time. And I was looking more for quantity necessarily than focusing on one specific element for a long period of time. So let's actually jump into the Adobe Illustrator file. And you can see here, like this file is jam-packed. Like there's so much exploration. I actually just decreased the sizes of all of this here so it would fit a little bit better. And I've started going through and started refining everything down that I like, that the team likes, and trying to create a cohesive system here. But let's actually go back in and look at the exploration. So you may remember from some of those, we had this guy right here, the B, C, and then having Bob within it, and this early exploration of having Bob within the actual B itself, the B shape. Lots of pieces of the sketches really came through and turned out really good. There's a lot of great ideas in this. Like I said before, making Bob morphic, where he can morph into different shapes, that was definitely a huge part of this. But there was also a very simple evolution for Bob that I had not really considered. I might have considered it a long time ago, but I didn't really consider it too much. And that was just changing his mouth shape. In the past, Bob has had a very simple mouth shape where it's just a single stroked line, no width applied to it at all. And I decided, you know what, let's try something different. So I created a few different versions of the mouth. This is the only one that actually made it through. And honestly, it turned out pretty cool. Seeing Bob just having this little dimple in his smile gave him a little bit more character, a little bit more personality. And I thought that it really worked very well with the brand overall. And so with that, I also started to reduce Bob down. So instead of having the eye shape you can see here in this like white version of Bob, you can see how we have like this stroke going around his eye. In this reducted version, this would be more for smaller sizes and smaller scales, where we would have just a simple pupil in the center, and then we would have the smile right here. And if we go actually to the refinement, you can see here, this is kind of the evolution of where this went. This is what I'm considering the final or semi-final version of all of this. So we have the pupil and the smile being the smallest version of all of this. We have a version of running Bob with the pupil, and then we have a B with the pupil and the smile in it. And honestly, I really like how all of these turned out. You can see the evolution from where we were. If we jump back over here, you can see like this is where Bob was, where just with like the simple smile, and now we have a more refined smile to it. It's the small things, the small little tweaks that really make a huge impact. And if you notice, when we look at this, we didn't rebrand Bob. We didn't take him and completely change him. We added one small tweak to him. We refreshed him. And now we're able to expand this outward into these new symbols. For the longest time, Bob had a shield. That has been the main mark. And I'm going to jump back over to Figma so you can go and look at this. For the longest time, we were using Bob with a shield, and I called this the spark of creativity. And this was the main logo. If we go to our website, bluecyclops.co, this is the logo that currently sits on the website. You can see like we've been using this, I think, for a very long time now. If I'm not mistaken, probably for the last 3 years or so. And you can see it carries out into the other child brands and everything as well. And so when I was going through here, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep that shield? Are we going to change it? Are we going to use a different container? And honestly, what I decided to do was very simple. I took a B shape that you see here, and instead of using a shield, we used the B as the main container for this. Now, I tried a version where we had the spark of creativity. We can actually probably see it somewhere up here if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there it goes. So we had a version of this where we had the spark of creativity right here underneath Bob. And honestly, I felt like it was just an element that we could actually probably get rid of for this specific mark. This is probably going to end up being the main mark that we use for a lot of things, but this right here I think works by itself with just having running Bob in there, but also having a version where Bob is just standing and smiling. Both of these work very well with each other, and I think that this was a great way of bringing this all together. And you can see here, even the silhouettes came back, and really liked how this came together. And when we go to the actual word marks here, now I'm going to go back to the exploration. Word marks for Blue Cyclops have been something I've struggled with for years. We've honestly, for the most part, only had typed out word marks for Blue Cyclops with, of course, some customization, some kerning, and things like that. The one thing that is that I've always struggled with is, honestly, it can be a bit boring to have a simple word mark like that. And so what I wanted to do, and this goes back to, if we think about the brand strategy side of things and we think about the vision board, the mood board that we put together, I wanted to make it to where our brand could be easily expanded, easily taken from different contexts, and try a whole bunch of different things out. And you can kind of see that happening right here with this like word mark exploration, these badges here. Now, these badges, will this be the final word mark? No, it definitely won't be. However, it's a really cool badge that we can turn into some cool merchandise, cool swag. There's so much that we can possibly do there with this. It doesn't have to be the final word mark. In fact, I've really come to the conclusion that we don't necessarily need a word mark for Blue Cyclops brand. Now, in certain contexts, yes, we probably do need one, and that's why, if you notice here, I kind of gravitate towards just like these options for the word mark, with this being the primary, I think, for a lot of things. It's super simple, very straightforward, and then going up in scale with complexity from there. This is where I landed with the word mark for Blue Cyclops. We don't, like I said, we don't need something that that is used everywhere. In fact, even on our website, the only place that we would use a potential word mark like this might be the footer. Even the hero section uses just the mark. So there was no need for me to actually spend a ton of time trying to figure that out. But I ended up spending a lot of time. But with this, like, a lot of great things came out of this. Like we said, with these like retro badges that you saw here, these signage badges, which for the longest time, let me try and zoom in here. For the longest time, I've wanted to create a sign for Blue Cyclops. I've got this office space that you see me in, and I want to create a cool sign that we can either put up on the wall or we can put outside of the door here. And so I explored a lot with this, looking at some retro signs. This actually shape here, I got some inspiration from Instagram, from someone's signs for, I believe it was for a diner. And I thought this was really cool to kind of like put this together. But there was just pure exploration. You can even see here, like, these are a lot of the typefaces that I kind of explored overall. This one here or which one is it? There's actually another one. Where is it? There it is. This one right here, you can see, let's go to refined ones. There we go. This one was actually based on, if I remember correctly, this is Redondo Avenue by the Hood Sisters, Hoodspa. This is their typeface. This one here, I can't remember what this typeface was. There's many out there like it. But this one I really liked because of like the nice retro feel of it. And then the Redondo Avenue one was really nice, and just like how it was put together. And you can see here, this isn't just typed out. This one is a little bit more typed out down here. But this one, we actually have gone through and we've organized the different elements across the board. Let me zoom in so you guys can see this a little bit better. You know, this is typed out. This is still live text throughout, but it's been reorganized and reconfigured to allow for these cool little elements here. And so you can see this in both this one here as well as the one above it, that one thing that I wanted to do was I didn't just want to have the Blue Cyclops lettering or word mark be just the words themselves. And so with both these hand lettering examples or lettering examples here, you can see that I've inputted Bob the Blue Cyclops into the actual C of Cyclops. And I think that this really adds a lot to this. And we could even take the B and the C and have them be a kind of like monogram with this in here. And even with this one too, it worked very well having the actual Cyclops simplified mark with inside of that C. And so all of this like really came together nicely across the board. You can see a bunch of the badge exploration and lockups that I put together here. And there's something about, and let me actually zoom in so you guys can see this part right here. These are secondary like marks and compositions. And there was something about this here. I don't know why, but I really like the B and the C with Blue Cyclops, and either having DC for design company in there or bringing back that spark of creativity into the actual logo or mark itself. And so these here, these will probably never live in their own element, like how we would have with the actual mark itself, but they can easily live with inside of badges and lockups. You can see here, like these retro like stickers. These look really cool. I love these. They're simplistic. I don't know if I'll ever get them printed or anything, but I just think it's really a cool way of utilizing the brand. Because we're based out of Georgia, which we were originally based in San Diego, California, and now we live in Atlanta. Having Bob the Blue Cyclops be the state of Georgia, I think that looks really cool, and it's a really great way of paying homage to where we live and our community. And then, of course, like you can see the same ones down here with the running Bob and the B, and then the simplified version of what you saw before with the B and the C, the simplified Cyclops mark, and then the spark of creativity in these. And just honestly, like all of this exploration was just so much fun to do, and seeing it all come together was so well worth the week of exploration. And like I said, this is by no means finished. In fact, the one thing that I really want to do with the Blue Cyclops brand is constantly explore new things. But what we've created here, what we started to refine and narrow in on with all of these elements here, is we're starting to put together an actual logo system, and we're giving ourselves rules and usage for this, so we know, okay, how far can we push this? What can we, kind of do to keep everything feel like they're still within the Blue Cyclops system, but we're able to explore things. We're able to create new things with this. So this is where we're currently at after a week. And honestly, this is not bad for a week's worth of work and the amount of exploration that's been done here. I think that this is leaps and bounds what I could have asked for overall. All right, and so that's where we're at. After a week's worth of exploration, design work, sketching, just like thinking through the Blue Cyclops brand, this is where we are currently at right now. Now, this is by no means done. Like I've said, this is no means done. There's so much more that has to be done with this, but we're in a good spot. Some of the next things that we're going to be tackling after I go through and clean this all up and refine it a little bit further is we're going to start working on the brand elements. What that means is things like patterns, shapes, textures, a lot of the things that kind of like create the ecosystem that the brand lives in. That's what we're going to be working on next. Honestly, that could take a week by itself. On top of that, we're also going to start working on illustrations and what I call illustration style development or discovery. And luckily, we've done a lot of work on this already, so we're able to get a good jumpstart on this. Now, both of these things separate could easily take a week. What we're going to try and do is between now and the end of this week, or at least the beginning of next week, this is going to be our main focus. We're not really going to focus too much on color and typography. We did a lot of color exploration. I feel like we're at a good spot. There might be like one single color that might need a little bit of tweaking. And typography, I think we're pretty much there with what we need when we did everything for our website. So I don't think there needs to be much exploration there. But brand elements is definitely a big part. Same with illustration. I want to make sure that this brand, that our brand, can include a lot of illustrations for storytelling, as well as still, feel on brand, feel playful. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, please remember to comment if you have any questions, subscribe if you want to follow along, and please feel free to also follow me across all of my other social platforms. You can easily find me at Rocky Rourke on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitter. I say Twitter twice. TikTok, I meant. But please feel free to follow along. This journey has only just begun. We are day 8. We still have, 22 more days to go. And who knows if we're going to have to go beyond the 30 days. Most likely, that's what's going to happen. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And always remember to stay passionate, stay positive, stay creative. That's it for me. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.